Hi everyone, I hope you are fine and doing well. Today's session, I will teach you one of the traditional approach, that is grammar translation methods. So in today's session you will know its principle and also how do we apply it in the English language teaching. So as an introduction, the grammar translation method stands as one of the earliest and the most enduring approaches in the field of language teaching. So this approach is one of the earliest approaches, is one of the most enduring approaches. Its historical roots extend back centuries, and it held a position of considerable prominence, particularly during the 18th and the 19th centuries. So this is also one reason what's earliest, also it's have a position of considerable prominence during the 18th and 19th centuries. Understanding this method, its underlying principle, and its practical application is crucial for anyone involved in language teaching. So anyone involved in language teaching is crucial for him to understand, to have a familiar, to be familiar with this approach. Now, number two, or the second thing that I'm going to share with you is, what is this method? What is grammar translation method? So grammar translation method is fundamentally a technique for teaching foreign languages that originated from the traditional method used to instruct in classical languages such as ancient Greek and Latin. In a typical grammar translation classroom, students are practically engaged in learning grammar rules of the target language. So, one of the features of this approach is that learners are engaged in learning what? When they learn grammatical rules. Grammatical rules, one of the characteristics of this approach. Following the acquisition of these rules, students then apply their knowledge by translating sentences between the target language, in this case English, and their native language, LOA. For students at a more advanced level, the main demands might extend to translating entire text at often one a word for a word basis. So this is some information about this grammar translation method. Grammar translation method. It's a traditional method. It's focused on grammar and also translation. Now we are going to see its core principles, some course and some core principles and characteristics. So one of the principles of this is that it is the focus on grammar and translation. So it is focused on grammar and translation. The method posits that a strong understanding of grammatical rules is paramount to language learning. So, when the learners have a strong understanding of grammatical rules, I think this will lead him to learn the language. So this is according to this method. Consequently, instruction heavily emphasizes the explicit teaching of this rule. So we teach these rules explicitly, not implicitly, explicitly, using didactic approach. The approach that we use, within this approach is didactic approach, that we teach grammatical rules explicitly, which are then reinforced through translation exercises between English and the learner's native language. So how these rules after are reinforced? Using translation exercises, using exercises between English and the learner's native language. Another key characteristic that it gives much importance to reading and writing skills. at the expense of speaking and listening. So it neglects, we can say it neglects the speaking and listening skill and give importance to reading and writing. The prioritization stems from the methods historical associated with the study of classical languages, where the primary objective was typically to read and comprehend literary works rather than to engage. So the aim within this approach is not to engage in oral communication, but it's to read and comprehend literary works. So this is the aim. That's why I say it neglects reading, speaking and listening, but because speaking here, we give much importance when the learner is engaged in oral communication. I think here we give much importance to this skill that is speaking, but you don't give, and speaking and listening, they are neglected within this approach, but whereas reading and writing are there. Consequently, classroom activities and assessment tend to concentrate on the written form of language. So the written form of language with the classroom activities, assessment are based on the written form of language. The use of literary text is also a common feature of GTM, literary text. Of course, reading and writing. Classical literature and other written means serve as the primary content for teaching vocabulary and grammar. So, classical literature and other written, all written materials, we use them, and classical literature, we use them to teach vocabulary and grammar. This aligns with the methods aimed to enable students to access and understand literature in the target language, further underscoring its academic orientation. Grammar is typically taught through didactic approach. So, as I have said, that we use didactic approach to teach grammar. We don't use inductive approach, didactic approach. This means that grammatical rules are presented explicitly. We present the grammar to the students, often through explanations and examples provided by the teacher. Following this explicit instruction, students then apply the rules through various exercises, particularly translation tasks. So we use deductive approach. That is, it's an explicit approach. We teach grammar explicitly. Then students, what they do, they apply these rules through various exercises, especially translation tasks. Memorization plays a significant role in the grammar translation method. So, of course, here we teach them, we don't use context, a meaningful situation in order to teach grammatical rules. We teach them the rules first, then they apply it. So here the aim is to memorize the rules and to use them in doing some translation tasks. Memorization plays a significant role in the grammar translation method. As I said in the beginning, the main focus of this approach is grammar and translation. Students are often required to memorize vocabularies. So what do you memorize? Vocabularies, grammatical rules, and verb conjugations. This rote learning is considered a fundamental aspect of building a strong linguistic foundation, enabling accurate translation and comprehension. So, memorizing vocabularies, grammatical rules, and verb conjugation. The native language as the medium of instruction. So, in order to know whether students understand the instructions, what do we use to know that? We use the L1, that is native language. Teacher typically use the students' L1 to explain complex grammatical concepts and the meaning of vocabulary. So this word vocabulary words, we use the L1 to explain them to students, to learn. While this can facilitate understanding, This, yes, of course, it facilitates. They will know what but it limits. It results in limited exposure to the target language within the classroom setting. So here, I know students are not exposed to this language because we use a lot translation class. We don't focus on the speaking skill and listening skill in our classroom activities. In terms of linguistic priorities, the grammar, and also because we focus all activities during this approach are focused on the written form of the language rather than the spoken form of the language. In terms of linguistic priorities, the grammatical methods places a strong on accuracy. So, we place a strong emphasis on accuracy more than fluency. Sorry. The primary goal is to produce grammatically correct sentences and accurate translations, sometimes at the expense of developing the ability to communicate spontaneously and fluently in English. The core classroom activity revolves around sentence translation. So, classroom activity, it revolves around sentence translation, it's translating sentences. Students spend a considerable amount of time translating sentences and paragraphs from English to native language and vice versa. So I think they spend a lot of time translating the paragraphs and sentences from the English to everyone. This practice is the most direct way to apply the grammatical knowledge and teach the comprehension in both languages. The role of the teacher in GDM is typically teacher-centered. It's teacher-centered. Teacher does everything. Learner is not an active participant. It's a passive participant in this approach. The teacher is positioned as the authority figure, imparting grammatical knowledge and providing correct translations. Students' interaction is often limited. Is limited, with the primary flow of communication being from the teacher to the students. Finally, vocabulary in the grammar is frequently taught as list of isolated words. We don't teach vocabulary in context, using communicative situations, using meaningful situations, using clear context. We teach it in isolated words, and that make it not meaningful. Okay, so we are not seeking here in this approach to develop a communicative competence. We are seeking just learners to master grammatical rules. We are seeking just accuracy. We are not seeking fluency. We are seeking just learners to be familiar with grammar rules, and that's all. The lists often provide a native language equivalent for each target. This decontextualized approach to vocabulary acquisition may not always facilitate understanding nuance and various uses of words in authentic communication. So this is the part one of what? This is the part one of grammar translation method. In this part one, what you have learned, what is its core principles and characteristics, what is grammar translation method, and in the next video you will learn typical techniques and classroom activities, and also you will learn some advantages of using the grammar translation method, and you will learn some disadvantages. You will also deal with modern adaptations and applications, and also method in practice, an example of teaching, of using this approach in an example.